The full episode is now available on Patreon and YouTube memberships. Please see the link in the description for more details.
So, last time we recorded, we discussed the blood and cheese stuff, and I feel like we both agreed that it could have been better, but overall it was fine, it did what it needed to do. But showrunner Ryan Condal has more to say on this because I'm sure he is somewhat aware of parts of the fandom complaining that it wasn't a one-to-one adaptation. So he did an interview with The Wrap, and he said it was not really possible, given the age of those characters, to play realistically what is in the book, he said. I mean, there are things that you actually cannot do with children on set, and rightfully so, sort of from a decency standpoint, and also from a legal standpoint. What children are allowed to see and do on set would have made shooting it very difficult. Condal said there was a lot of debate about how exactly to adapt the moment from the books. The ages of those children are so young that you wouldn't really be getting actors, you would be getting stand-ins, essentially extras who are played by children because the child has to be a certain age in order to be able to take direction from a director, he continued. So there was a lot of debate about how do we write this, and how do we structure this so we can make it satisfying, but also producible. And of course, what's written on the page is great and is classic and affected everybody that read the book, but we had to figure out a way to take that and make it for screen in a way that would be executable and also dramatically satisfying. I saw someone in my comment section say how this was like hyped up to be the House of the Dragons version of the Red Wedding, and while this was crazy, the Red Wedding was still better. Like, reading that, it dawned on me that the reason why the Red Wedding is better is because you're brutally surprised. Unless you paid very close attention to certain cues here and there, you wouldn't have guessed that this would be like the end for these people, and it would be that gruesome. In House of the Dragon, we know something fucked up is coming down because we follow these guys every step of the way, and it doesn't help that they're kind of stumbling through it like dumb fucks, removing any suspense from those moments. Imagine the Red Wedding, but you see the phrase behind the scenes setting up the whole thing. It feels less impactful when it does go down, but still, the casual viewers were traumatized enough, and they're the main audience, so it did its job.
When I read that, I was very interested because I was unaware of this. Like, obviously you can't do certain things with child actors, but I wasn't aware of, like, I'm curious to know, like, what exactly is, like, the limits, you know, because I've seen movies and TV shows really push those limits. So especially Game of Thrones, like Game of Thrones, a lot of the actors when they started were children, and had to do some pretty I don't know, disturbing stuff and be in pretty disturbing scenes. It makes sense. It makes sense in retrospect. And maybe laws have changed since then or something like that. I've made my peace with the blood and cheese thing. Like I said, like it's probably a limitation of the medium. Like, it's easy to write something super dark, but kind of hard to pull it off with actors, especially child actors. It's tough. Yeah. And I don't want to. I don't want like a kid to be traumatized to get me a episode of House of the Dragon. Like, I don't want that. I don't think that's worth it. So yeah, it ended up the way it ended up, and you know, we'll see other stuff this season instead. Probably.
You brought up a good point. I wonder how far they can take it, because in that episode, there's a scene where little Jaehaerys is in the small council room, and they're talking about the North and the Vale ignoring the Crown's calls, and Aegon's like, well, they're cunts. Was that kid in that scene for that?
They earmuffed him. They put little earmuffs over his ears.
Little earmuffs.
I always thought that. With like I'm trying to think of like what's a good show that like has like a, I don't know, like I always wondered when they had child actors on a TV show like Breaking Bad or something like that, like Mike's granddaughter, who's always played by a child actress, and she's seeing these like, and in the same episode that she's acting in, there's like brutal, I don't know, cartel murders and meth and stuff like that. Like, I'm trying to be like, does the actor watch that scene? Does the child actor get to watch the episode, or do they, like, because it's weird, because the thing is, like, the film industry needs child actors for almost everything, because children are just an everyday aspect of our lives.
Until we can replace them with AI, but yes.
Until we replace them with AI children. Yeah, so it's like, it's always weird for me when I hear the film industry with like mature movies that are graphic or something like that, where there's child actors in them, because I always wondered
Mhm.
like, because actors always like to watch the movies they're in, right? Like they want, oh, there I am. They want to watch the movie and point out where they are. It's like it's very weird to me with child actors where I'm like, are the children allowed to watch the movie that they're in or the TV show that they're in? Like this, like the Jaehaerys actor, the little kid. Like, is he allowed to watch the House of the Dragon episode he was in? Like, even though there's like sex scenes and
Yeah,
gore.
probably. He probably won't watch. His parents probably won't let him watch it until he's much older. But that does raise an interesting question because I remember I forgot which episode it was. I'm sure Dragon Demands will come swooping in the comments and remind me. But in season 1 of Game of Thrones, when all the kid actors were super duper young, Arya, I think the Bran actor, maybe Rickon actor, they did an episode commentary for one of those episodes, and I'm like. Now thinking back on it, like it seemed like the first season of Game of Thrones, every episode had like a sex scene.
Oh yeah, they had Roz the prostitute.
Yeah, like if these kids are doing commentary, like
You're 100% right. I'm pretty sure the episode where you see Theon's limp dick like had a commentary with like the Bran actor or something. Like, I don't know, I'll have to check back, but you're right that like maybe it was the Wild West back then and there's like laws now that prevent you from doing that. Like, yeah, we probably shouldn't do that. We probably shouldn't have the Bran actor comment over Sir Hugh get a tourney sword stuck in his neck.
honestly, you're right. It probably was the Wild West back then, but at the same time, I like to think that the parents were on set in some capacity, and then they had a stand-in for when certain scenes were a little too risque. Like, I don't know if you remember that one scene with Bran and Osha in season 1 in the Godswood with Hodor coming in, and yeah, it was very very risque scene. Well, to wrap this up, because I'm gonna be very real with you, I'm kind of sick of talking about this. What annoys me is how weird and aggressive the fandom is getting with these attacks on the showrunners and the writers for the unfaithful adaptation. And
Right.
yeah, no, the first few seasons of Game of Thrones weren't entirely faithful either, yet everyone sings its praises. So, like, I said this in one of my videos, and I'll say it here. I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater over this one thing, and I keep seeing people hating on Condal for this, and it's sad because I know I'm going to get called a shill for defending a reasonable explanation from him, but I do think it is reasonable for all the reasons he gave. So yeah, I think the most comfortable middle ground we can all come to on is that they should have filmed it from the killer's perspective because of how lame they were. And the episode, minus that last segment, was still fairly good. I think we can all come to that reasonable conclusion and, yeah, find that middle ground right there.